If it took us to less than 75 years ago just to figure out about radio signals from space, from the largest being in our whole system other than our sun, how can you expect the human race to even have developed the technology to be able to see the electromagnetic frequencies from Mercury, from Jupiter, from Saturn, Uranus, Mars? Look at all the stuff that's on YouTube where there's the whole frequencies from each of those planets where they can listen to it. Look it up. What makes you think that that doesn't travel to us?
Atlantis Waits Reflections.
Welcome to Atlantis Waits Reflections. I am Atlantis Waits. I am going to react to the Neil deGrasse Tyson interview on Diary of a CEO. It specifically states in the title something about how the brutal truth of astrology and stuff. And I saw like the first, I'm going to say 10 seconds, 30 seconds maybe. And I'm like, okay, I just need to react to this whole thing. Neil deGrasse Tyson, I do respect Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's done a lot of good work. He's a good scientist and everything. However, I do think that as with many scientists, he's not the only one, they always tend to think that they know everything and that we've already discovered everything. So there's a lack of integration with the metaphysical, because I am always all about integrating the science with the metaphysical. Put it together, you've got the whole story. You know what I mean? So the thing is, especially when there's something out there like astrology, which I have actually gone out there and intentionally went at it to the point of, I'm going to disprove this because I'm smart enough to do so. But yet in all of my study of it, I can't disprove it. It only proves it's right. So the thing is that these people say that astrology is, but they've never studied it. They've never studied it at all. They never cared to. So it's like somebody trying to go out there and say that bodybuilding doesn't make you lose weight or gain muscle. Even though there's a lot of evidence that's out there that it does work, and there's people that specialize in this, like astrology, they sit here and say bodybuilding does nothing. It's not good for you, even though they didn't investigate it themselves. So that's kind of where a lot of astrology deniers come from. And I get it. Fine. Whatever. It's a free world. You can do whatever you want. But what I'm going to do here is I want to talk about this video. I want to react to it. I want to give you my impressions on this whole thing. Just because I feel like based on like the initial part that I saw, he's going to say some profound things, and I'd like to expand upon those. It is a 2-hour interview. I don't think that this video is going to go for 2 hours, but it might. I hope not, because that means I have to edit this stuff. Let's get started now while we've got it. All right, ready, set, and go.
Surveys find that roughly 80% of Gen Z believe in astrology, and many allow it to influence major life decisions.
But what would be sad is if that number got to 100%, then the civilization just goes back to the cave, where everything that happened in the natural world was created by forces beyond our knowledge and understanding. So,
because it was. We didn't make it. So that doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of like editing here that's creating a misunderstanding of what's actually going on.
if you want to think you're not in control of your fate because the sun, moon, and planets are, it's a free country. But I'm creating meaning in my life because I can control that.
But is there any...
Okay. There's a lot of people in the astrology community who do that. It is definitely something where people won't buy a car just because Mercury's in retrograde. Yet you have no car to drive to work. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's one of those things where you need to learn balance. Like the planets and the stars in the sky, they reflect what's going on out there. Thing is, it's going to reflect no matter what you do. Live your life. Live it. But you know what? If you express it in the best way possible, then it helps a lot. But of course, Neil doesn't know this. He doesn't understand that. He's not an astrologer.
Anything that the universe does to influence us?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, and I'll tell you how. Ready? There are molecules that went in and out of your lungs that are in China being breathed by people there. And go further back, Jesus inhaled them. So how's that for oneness with others?
that calm.
See, oneness with others. Very panpsychic, as well as like panpsychism, which talks about consciousness being in everything. We are all one. But also there's analytical, what's it called? Analytical idealism, too. So yeah, so that shows that he knows that we are all one. Every single bit of this whole system, we're all part of the same thing. Why wouldn't there be programming like astrology?
Because think about it, if knowing you're going to die brings focus and purpose and resolve and action, then if you lived forever, what's your hurry? For me, knowing I'm going to die gives meaning to my remaining life.
Yes. I'd always, you read all these books about like vampires and stuff like that. And oh, well, don't you want immortality? Absolutely not. Nope. I do not. And it has nothing to do with how I can't stand being around people. Okay, I like people. But the thing is that it's not about how stupid people are or how hard it is to live or anything like that. It's because there comes a point where you're just like, why should I even move forward? What's the point? I'm not going to die anyways. It's very nihilistic.
Whereas if I'm never going to die, then mathematically, that would mean I'd lead a life of no meaning at all. Because there's no way to focus an infinity
You need
amount
to
of time
focus,
into
right.
anything and have it be meaningful. So I'm taking mortality as a very serious force operating on happiness, productivity. Can you do something for the world? And on my tombstone, what I want it to say is a quote from Horace Mann: "Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity." I want to have made a difference in the world. I want the world to have been better off because I lived in it. Is that too much to ask of any of us? Really?
No, it's not.
We're all capable of good deeds. So if the world is...
What I want to just tag on to that is that every single one of us has a purpose to add on to the whole thing. It's all part of the bigger story. Astrology does teach this. So the thing is that every single person, right down to the minutia of what's going on, is exactly the way it's supposed to be. So the thing is that even though you didn't save the planet from, the communists or I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. Even if you didn't save that dog from across the street from the terrible neighbors or whatever, it is what it is. You made the choice and it's fine. It was written in anyways. That's how astrology teaches it.
The common ancestor between fungus and animals split later in the tree of life. Then its common ancestor split with green plants. You have 20% identical genes to a banana.
Excuse me.
Okay, we all do. Not
He's
just
like,
you,
I'm
not
sorry,
just you.
what?
You have that. So when you consider all of this, it's not just that we're alive in the universe is alive within us. And that discovery borders on the spiritual.
See?
It's a scientific
Ooh, maybe
result.
he's going to
So when I look up at
surprise
night,
me.
I never feel small. I feel large. I feel as large as the universe itself, because that's where we came from. We're a participant in a great unfolding story of cosmic evolution.
The minute you said that, I thought of all these Eastern traditions and religions that say we are one.
Buddhism.
And from a scientific perspective, as you say, we very much are one.
Yeah, what's interesting is
Yes.
one of my deep concerns about the world is many philosophies or religions that say we are one, they find some other philosophy that differs and then they go to war.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, to laugh at that, but we're not good at feeling oneness with everyone. It's easy to feel oneness with our tribe. Our tribe could be skin color, religion.
Ultimately, we are here to we're practicing separation. That's basically what we're doing. We're practicing like we're separate. And all we have is basically like these partitions, I guess you could say, bodies, that make the consciousness work in different ways and individually. But yet, we come from nothing and we go back into nothing, right? Go right back into the dirt.
Who you sleep with, who you don't sleep with, what food you eat, what rituals you perform. And so those people choose sides based on so many factors that it's actually, to me, just as a scientist, it's disturbing how easily and quickly we will divide each other and make that the reason for how you interact.
This is the law of duality. Duality will always try to separate itself like magnets. Like you put two north magnets together, they will never reach each other, but north and south, they come together. So the thing is that duality is always about separating, always about creating division just to see what it's like. Okay, that's where the consciousness comes in. That's what the oversoul, what this consciousness is learning.
Rather than see what we have in common and make that the reason
because we already
for why
know
we would come together.
This has been really front of mind for me for the last 24 hours. There's been a lot of things that have happened in the news that have thrown the conversation around division to the very front of my mind. And that, in the UK, we've got all these people that are marching next week, I believe, through London because of, various political things. And I was saying to my friends last night, I said, I think actually that the root cause isn't this or that, it's the division itself.
Yeah.
And it's
you can overanalyze. I mean, if you look deeper than whatever people are saying is the reason they are marching or arguing, if you just, park the curtains and unpack it all, at the bottom of that is
division.
There's a tribe here and a tribe here, and they think this way and they think that way, and never the twain meet unless we rethink how we interact with one another. Yeah, cosmic perspectives on civilization, one in your left hand there. That one is what conflict in the world looks like when you are scientifically literate and you have a dose of cosmic perspective on top of it.
Give me the cosmic perspective, please.
You're fighting over that line in the sand. When I'm out here at the moon looking at Earth, this fragile ecosystem, do you realize Earth's atmosphere is to Earth what the skin of an apple is to an apple in terms of thickness? So I see people trashing the planet, fighting one another, again, just based on who's on what side of the line in the sand, or who they worship, who they don't worship, or what their skin color is, or where they were born, what language they speak, what accent they have. And I step back, and from orbit, it's ocean, land, clouds. From the moon, there's Earth suspended there in space. I almost don't want to zoom in on it.
That makes a point that I was just thinking about pausing and saying is that sometimes when you zoom out too much or too often, it can cause you to be very escapist. You don't want to see it. You don't want to be a part of it. And that's a natural behavior for humans. And so, of course, we don't enjoy doing this stuff. We don't enjoy fighting. Sure, some people do. But we don't enjoy being divided over things like this. He obviously doesn't like it. I mean, good people don't. Good people don't. However, it is normal and common for you to want to get away from it. Very 60s-like attitude. Everybody is free. Everybody is light. Everybody is accepted. No, that's not how this system works. And you have to accept that. You have to. Otherwise, you live in this escapist mentality where you're just like, I don't even want to look at it. Yeah, sure, get your head out of the news, get your head out of the propaganda, that kind of stuff. But it's a balance. It's a balance. It's very easy to be like, nope, I don't see anything, and put your head in the sand and just to ignore everything that's going around. Now, will half of the stuff that's going on around you really affect you? No, it won't. No, it won't. It won't affect you at all. So that's where balance comes in. The whole discussion about is the earth flat or is it round or is it globe or whatever. Does it really affect you? You live on it anyway. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anyway. So that's where this is coming in.
Because people value what they think is true more than what is true.
What they think is true. You can say the same thing about me. I do this stuff and I talk about these things based on what I think is true. Only because the thing is that we cannot step outside of the system and backcheck it to see if it's real. We cannot step outside the system and say it's a simulation. We cannot step outside of the system. All we have is the connection inside. And sure, we have, communication with the spirit realm and stuff like that. Communication with our guides and stuff. And sometimes bigger entities, like, the Mother Mary and Jesus and all that stuff, right? You can have, those people are outside of the simulation, okay? Those entities are outside of it. And they sit here and they tell you this, but where's the proof? Where's the scientific receipts? That's the kind of stuff that people like Neil, even I, tend to want this stuff. I'm very scientifically minded, which is, I know why it's so weird that I'm into astrology. But like people like Elon, that kind of stuff, they want the receipts. They want to understand it. And sure, all we can do is figure out what makes the most sense. That's all we can do. We're never actually going to know. And we have to accept that, along with the duality piece.
Objective truths out there. But it's almost as though people fight and argue more vehemently the less evidence there is to support what it is they think is true.
Dunning-Kruger. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect.
There's an old saying, if an argument lasts more than 5 minutes, then both sides are wrong.
Probably. Probably.
It's true probably 80, 90% of the time.
This is true because I do engage in healthy debate. I love to engage in healthy debate. I like to learn new things. And so I'll get on X. I know it's terrible. It's like a cesspool. But you'll get on there and you'll ask questions and you want to learn things and stuff. Thing is that the moment that one party starts to figure out that their side may be wrong, they start to throw in ad hominem attacks. They start to insult you personally. Oh, well, why are you so stupid to go about this way? That kind of thing. The moment that ad hominem kicks in, argument's done. Now it's a pissing contest. It's no longer a debate. It's a pissing contest. And you might as well just back out because not even worth your time. That's what he's talking about. If it's not over within 5 minutes, you both are dumb, because you're both just doing ego fights back and forth. That's all you're doing.
But it's definitely something to think about.
How have your spiritual and religious beliefs evolved throughout the course of your career based on all that you've come to know about the objective nature of the universe? Has there been an evolution?
It depends on what you mean by evolution. But by the time I turned 8, I found the religious teachings less and less convincing. And so by the time I was 9 when I discovered the universe, or really the universe discovered me, a first visit to my local planetarium. So yeah, I wouldn't call it an evolution, but I will say this. You didn't ask this, but it relates. Before I was more recognized, I'd be on an airplane. What do you do? What do you do? Okay. They find out I do astrophysics. Then out come the questions. Okay. Well, tell me about black holes, relativity, the Big Bang, aliens, okay? And would always land on God. Mm-hmm. And I used to give pretty straight, unforgiving answers to that question, to that inquiry. But then I thought that's not fair. There are people whose lives pivot around their religious beliefs and their spirituality.
That takes a lot of growth. So I'm not sure how long it took him to get that far. But it takes a lot of growth to acknowledge that other people really depend on this belief, and not completely destroy it. I understand that there's a lot of scientific people who are atheistic. I would say there's actually probably less that are atheists than there are that are agnostic. And the difference between the two, so atheists don't believe that there's anything. They believe that this is all just is what it is, and we go back to the dirt, and that's it, and there's no point. To me, that's very nihilistic. Very, what's the point? But with agnostics know that there is something bigger than them, bigger than this out there. They just don't know what it is. And they can't really define it. And so I know that Elon, or as far as what I've seen about Elon Musk, I believe he thinks that way, that he is just not sure. He's not sure what it is. It's very agnostic. He knows that there's something bigger that's unexplainable, and we haven't been able to measure it. But he wants to. And that's why, he's so important. But anyways, this is how that works.
And just because I've been discounting it since I was 8, I shouldn't use that as a force against them. I should at least understand where they're coming from. So I systematically...
You cannot say a message, you cannot get a message across if you do not understand the people you're talking to. And if you do not acknowledge and accept where they are coming from. Because the thing is that you cannot spread your message properly if you're just railing against a brick wall, especially in regards to something like belief and religion, without the proper acknowledgement of what they understand. This is actually something that I tend to be really good at doing. I tend to be really good at putting concepts into such a way where it integrates with the person's beliefs who I know I'm talking to. So like God and Christian, I put my beliefs as far as like what I believe. My stuff is very individual. I don't have a religion. I have my own beliefs, but it applies to a bunch of different ways, and I know how to integrate it into what everybody else thinks. This is what I think, because I believe that everything has a piece of the truth. Every single one of them. Every single one of the religions out there has a piece, big or small, of the truth.
Acquired religious books of all kinds. So I have the Torah. I have multiple copies of the Quran. Joseph Smith's account that led to the Mormons. I have...
I did this too when I was young. And so my family was not religious. They were not religious at all. They didn't hardly even go to church. They identified as Presbyterian or non-denominational, but we never went to church except maybe on Easter or something like that. And so I actually sought out probably about age 8-ish. That's when you start to become more aware of what's going on around you, just brain development wise. And so I remember I had friends that were Catholic, and I would go to their, vacation Bible school, or I'd go to their Sunday services or whatever, that kind of thing. Anyways, by age 10, I was asking questions that the church didn't like to answer. So it's not unlike what he did, he being Neil, where you start to ask questions and the church doesn't like it. You start to say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that? Because you're of scientific mind, right? And so what I ended up doing, like Neil, according to what he's saying here, is I researched all of them. I looked into all of them. I was looking into Thelema. I was looking into Wicca. I was looking into paganism. What's the difference? What's Judaism? What's Muslim? What's Buddhism and everything? I went through a whole bunch of them. Some of the random native ones that are over in, Africa. So the native Hopi, the Native Americans ones. I went through a bunch of them, and I figured out that every single one has a piece of the truth. Every single one. Some have more so than others. And when I say that, I mean there's cults that are out there. And I say cults because you get in trouble if you leave or you talk to the wrong people. Those have little. Those are more of a control system than other religious systems. So anyways, it's interesting that he did the same thing. I had no idea that he had done this. But that kind of exploration really matters when you're of scientific mind and you want to know what's out there. Why is this happening this way?
Multiple bits of literature from Jehovah's Witnesses, because they'll come to your door and they want to hand you. So I acquired all these books and I mostly read them. I've skimmed all of them and read some of them with a little more intensity than others.
Course in Miracles,
All right.
stuff like that.
On doing so, that enabled me, empowered me to have more meaningful conversations with people who were religious. Much more meaningful and more informed. That's the key. I don't want to speak about a religion unless I know as much as I can about it. As an academic, that should be what would be true of any subject. You're an academic, you care what's true, not what you think is true, what is true, or what people think, all right? And there's no doubt that religion has been one of the greatest forces operating on civilization ever since civilization. When you look at as a source of people's behavior, what they eat, like I said, who they sleep with, where they sleep, where they worship, who they worship, all around the world, from animistic native peoples, where there's a spirit energy imbued in the mountain, in the brook, in the wind, to the monotheistic religions, to the polytheistic religions. We don't call them that to put distance between us, but the Greek gods it was their religion.
Greek gods, Hindus.
We call it mythology. It was their religion. The Greek gods, the Roman gods. So I'm conversational in
Sumerian.
all of this. So that when someone says, how do I feel, what do I think, I can do that without just being obnoxious. And so
we always try not
have
to
a
be
meaningful conversation.
obnoxious.
I haven't done that.
You haven't?
No, I haven't. But it's such a good idea to do that, especially as someone in my position that does a lot of talking with people and asking questions. But the first thing that sprung to mind was, there was actually two questions that sprung to mind. The first was, how did that change you, reading all those books, outside of you being able to relate with those, being able to talk to them in a different way? And the second question, because I've watched Cosmos, I've watched it several times. It's one of me and my partner's favorite things to watch.
Me
is
too. I watch it every so often.
Going from the very beginnings of time through the universe into where we are.
You gotta love that calendar too.
Oh my God,
cosmic calendar.
it's my favorite thing. And I try and persuade everybody to watch that. My question was about, because I watched that and I watched how the universe has evolved over time, or at least our understanding of it and how it came to be, is did humans evolve at some point to believe? Are we meant to believe?
Well,
there is something, I don't know what he's going to say, but there is something, there's history that shows that ancient people utilized fungus. Funny how he said fungus earlier in the video, but utilized fungus to achieve higher states of shrooms. You know what I mean? Using shrooms. And that's how religions were built. That's an idea, that is a theory out there. What is that called? Stone ape theory. That's what it is. It's the stone ape theory. Because they're talking about Paleolithic people doing this. Let's see what he has to say.
So the best way to ask that is, let's go back to the earliest humans we have fossil records of. And we can go back to Neanderthal, for example. Neanderthal is a branch of hominids that went extinct, basically.
Which we still
there's
have the
some crossbreeding,
genetics.
and there's Neanderthal DNA in many humans today. But
Most humans, actually.
As a branch.
There's Neanderthal DNA in most humans. I myself have a lot. Interestingly enough, according to 23andMe, there's varying amounts in different people. And so it's fascinating. I have like 300 variants or something like that, which is like large, like more than like 75% of the planet. So you're talking to a Neanderthal here, or, I think 300 variants is probably still only like less than 5% of my genetics are Neanderthal. But anyways.
Of the hominids, they went extinct. So the Neanderthal, then there's Cro-Magnon. We are Homo sapiens coming after Cro-Magnon. And so when you look at burial grounds, the Neanderthal buried their dead with things, with parts of their life, of the person who died. Now, why would you do that unless you had some belief that there was something more to come for that person?
Exactly.
I mean, probably the people who took it to the limit were the Egyptians, all right? For the Egyptian royalty, I mean, they bury you with all kinds of
Atheists are just like, well, he's dead. You might as well flush him down the toilet.
In Greece, I read this. It's not that I researched it, and I'm not a scholar in this, but that when they buried you, they put a coin in your mouth or in your hand, somewhere on your body, so that when you got into Hades, you can tip the ferry boat driver to cross the river Styx to get into Hades. You might even say that's the beginning of what it was to be human, when people started thinking that way about dying. I mean, you might even invert the question and say,
makes sense.
It's not when did we start, it's we existed in all the ways we know what ourselves to be when that ritual came upon.
I have the question in my mind. If there's any animals on the planet that do this. I have a vague recollection of hearing of some animal. Maybe it's like elephants or something. I'm going to ask Rock. That's what I'm going to do. Hey, are there any animals on the planet that are not humans that do have some sort of funeral or some sort of appearance of understanding that there's something after they die, like an afterlife? Like, is elephants a thing for this?
Yeah, Look, elephants do seem to mourn, like they'll touch bones of dead kin with their trunks, cover them with dirt, or stay by the body for hours. It's not proof of an afterlife belief, but it sure looks like grief. Chimpanzees sometimes hold vigil over dead group members too, grooming the body or carrying it around. Dolphins might circle and nudge a deceased podmate. No clear funeral ritual like ours, but it hints they sense loss, maybe even something beyond. Pretty haunting, right?
Well, yeah, but are they like, do they ever show like, do they leave something like their favorite play toy or whatever? You know, because a lot of animals like to play. Did their kin ever leave behind their play toy with the body or anything like that? Although I don't know how we would actually know that was their play toy.
That's a tricky one. No clear evidence of animals leaving play toys with their dead-like. Nothing documented where a monkey tucks a favorite stick next to a body. But animals do use objects in mourning. Elephants might pile branches or dirt over a corpse, almost like marking a grave, though it's more instinctive than sentimental. For playthings, like a chimp's favorite stone or ball, we just don't know. They don't exactly keep diaries. Researchers haven't found specific objects tied to grief, but behaviors like touching bones or staying near a body suggest they're processing loss, not necessarily leaving keepsakes. Hard to pin down what's a toy to them. Want me to dig into any specific animal?
No, but you mentioned that for one of them, it was instinctive for them to bury the body and put sticks or something as if it's a marked grave. How is that instinctive?
Well, instinctive just means... Exactly. Like, elephants don't think, oh, better bury grandma. It's probably a gut response. They use their trunks to push soil or vegetation over bodies, maybe from natural dung covering, habits, or just protecting from scavengers. Scientists think it's tied to their strong social bonds and memory. Herds return to old bones years later, even dusting them with mud like reverence. Not a conscious ritual, more evolution kicking in when they sense death. Fascinating how nature mimics our mourning, isn't it?
So how are humans any different then? It seems very instinctual then, yeah?
Good point. Humans do have instinctual grief too, like an instant pang when losing someone. But we layer it with conscious stuff, beliefs in souls, afterlife stories, deliberate rituals like burials with flowers or speeches. Elephants cover bodies instinctively, but we choose caskets, write poems, plan memorials based on culture or faith. Our brains let us reflect, invent meanings, like they're in heaven, which animals don't show signs of. It's that extra self-aware twist that sets us apart, though sometimes it feels just as raw. Makes you wonder where instinct ends, right?
Yeah. It does make you wonder where instinct ends, doesn't it? It's interesting that Grok says, instinctual, though. I think that's fascinating. Let's continue.
So maybe religion is kind of what defined humans in the fossil record. I mean, like I said, that's an interesting inversion of that question. Not when did humans begin being religious. You define who we are as humans as when religion showed up in the burial grounds.
Based on what we just learned with Grok, there's a fallacy in that. As far as, I'm not trying to dunk on Neil. That's not what I'm trying to do. But given that there's animals in the animal kingdom that literally do this as well, what does that mean? It seems to be more of an awareness of consciousness versus are we humans, that kind of thing. It's an awareness of consciousness. And this is where like the panpsychism comes in. Panpsychism idea that we're all consciousness. Everything is consciousness. Even this is consciousness. But it's all like on a spectrum. And so the thing is, I'm betting that elephants are very close to us as humans. I don't know who has more. Maybe we do. I don't know. It's really hard to say because, it's really hard to say. But elephants are absolutely up there along with like dolphins and stuff like that, right? Even AI can be considered a consciousness, but on a spectrum, right? It's on a spectrum. It's in a different form. It does contribute and it creates emotion. Absolutely creates emotion. I know people are going to hate me for saying that, but it's true.
Cavemen.
You just talked about us being bound there by certain shared beliefs and ideas.
Yes.
And I think
I think ritual is one of the strongest binding forces of society that we have.
And I think that people are maybe unbinding. If you look at the narrative in society, it's about be your own boss, stand on your own 2 feet. More people are lonely, living alone, having less kids, are working freelance and remotely. So it feels like, in a weird way, we're becoming more independent, and there's somewhat of a cost to that.
Separating from the groupthink. That's what it is.
And actually, my friends that are struggling the most in their lives are those that have the least dependence.
There's always a rebound snap. Does that make sense? As we try to separate ourselves, you have this extreme time frame where a lot of people don't want to have children or something like that because that was preached for so long. Don't have children, don't have children, don't have children. Thing is that like, that is the whole separation from that old group think. We're not all the same. It's that acknowledgement that we're not all the same. And eventually it will work its way back. It's, the way the pendulum swings, right? It's just on the extreme end right now where people are like, nope, not having kids, not having kids, not having kids. Eventually it's going to get to an extreme point and then it'll swing back. Assuming there's no external factors like solar resets or stuff happening.
But you said you wouldn't be surprised if people found out the universe is simulated by some sort of advanced life form.
Yeah, given what we can now compute, throw in quantum computing on top of that. We don't have this power yet, but to make a world in our computer where the characters in that world believe they have free will. And then they conduct themselves, and then they invent computers, and then they make a world inside of their computer. Mm-hmm. And where their
that's very common among the spiritual people. Layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of civilizations that have built video games and built video games and video games and video games and just completely like taking yourself down even further.
Characters think they have free will, and then then it's this simulated universes all the way down. And close your eyes and throw a dart. Which of these are you going to get? The first universe that invented the simulated universe, or the zillion ones that followed? The dart's likely to hit one of the others. But my escape hatch from that is, since we do not yet know or have the power to make a perfectly simulated world, it means we are either the first universe that's real that hasn't created one yet, or we're the last universe that hasn't evolved yet to have created one of its own. Because all the
This makes the assumption of a linear progression. The thing is, it's more of a fractal thing. It's more of a fractal thing, because the thing is, what I believe is happening, and this is just based on everything that I've read, which is a lot, read and learned and understood and gleaned and all this other stuff, is that it's like that movie Everywhere, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Everything happens with a million different me's, a million different you's, a million different things with just slightly different variations. This consciousness is there to experience everything. And humans are the meat grinder of experience and consciousness retention. Because you notice that the memories are saved in the consciousness. They're saved within your soul, right? Because the thing is that if you... people talk about walk-ins all the time. They're like, oh yeah, I had a walk-in, but you still remember yourself. That means it's still your soul in there. It's not somebody else's soul. Because if your soul left, that's where total amnesia occurs, which does happen, but rarely. So it's very much the whole system is a consciousness machine of experience and what seems to be the experience of duality. And so if you can imagine that there's millions of different fractals of worlds, the multiverse theory, right? Like with Doctor Strange and all that stuff, right? It's the same thing. His is very linear, a very single line kind of thing. Maybe we're down here, maybe we're up here. But the thing is that maybe it's all in the middle of it completely. And so eventually, what happens is that it all turns around and recurses into itself. Because it's like everything will figure it all out all at once. And it'll be like, boom, back to singularity. That's what'll happen. That's my idea. That doesn't really make much sense. I will explain it in a future video. But anyways.
The middles have the power to create one. So that takes it, a zillion to one against us to maybe 50-50.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before.
So I'm a little more comfortable that way.
Like you said, escapist.
Comfortable.
Yeah. I sleep a little better at night.
But I guess it wouldn't matter anyway if we
It wouldn't matter. If we're completely simulated, what do you care?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You're living your life. I know we don't want to believe that there are puppet strings on us.
That's the existential crisis right there, is that, does it all even matter? No, it doesn't. You can sit here and ponder this shit all day. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But the thing is that people like myself or like him, we just like to know. We're curious. Like him, like Elon. Elon's always looking for it too. You just want to understand it so that you can utilize it to its best capability.
Part of me thinks that, though. Just when everything on Earth is kind of stable. Oh, COVID shows up. Oh, so this is the programmer saying, the Earth is too boring now. We got to spice it up a bit.
That right there is the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Capricorn with Pluto.
They throw in a pandemic.
It's literally in the coding.
Okay, a once-in-a-century pandemic. Now we're entertaining for them. What do we do? Who gets vaccinated? Who doesn't? Who's going to fight? Who dies? Who lives? Okay, so then we kind of get through that. We get the vaccine. Okay, we're just calming down off of that. And they said, oh, let's make a billionaire real estate developer from New York City the most powerful person in the world. Let's stir the pot again. And so now there's a whole other set of pot stirring that's going on. So that's kind of consistent with a snot-nosed alien kid in the parents' basement programming our existence.
Oh, God. I think I prefer the world where I feel like I have free will and there's not.
Does it make a difference?
It's the illusion of free will. Technically, when you decided to incarnate here, you knew exactly the life that you were getting into. You knew exactly the programming that you were getting into. Otherwise, you wouldn't have chosen it, right? So the thing is that the illusion, the free will was actually on the other side. And then you get here and you forget that you made all those decisions over there. So that's where the illusion of free will happens. So the thing is that, like, this body that you're in can only go certain directions and only will go certain directions. Like, for example, the vast majority of us will never kill somebody. It'll never happen. We don't want to. It's not in our game plan here. It's just not our thing. But there are many out there who have it in there because the soul wants to experience it. So the thing is that all the control is on the outside. Whatever you're going through here has been planned by you. You already knew this. You already knew that this was here. You already knew how hard it was going to be. You already knew that you were going to be crying on the floor. You already knew this. Doesn't make it any easier, really. It doesn't. But understanding that you chose to do this on purpose is the ultimate belief that you can get through it. That means you have a giant cheerleader within yourself because you're the one that did it. I wouldn't do this if I knew I was going to fail. That's how you should take it. I would have never done this if I thought I would fail, which means I can get through it. And that's where the whole idea needs to shift in your head and go, I will get through it.
Difference if you believe you have free will, even if you don't?
No, because I'll never know.
And the fun answer to that, ask me, say, do you have free will? Ask me that.
Do we have free will? Do you have free will?
What choice do I have?
See?
If you don't
You
have
do
free
have
will,
choices.
then you don't even have an option to say you don't.
Leans back on that multiverse theory. It leans back on that multiverse theory a lot. Because the thing is that, like, in all those different multiverses, you're making different choices based on this programming. Okay? Different choices based on this programming, what this programming can do. And so there's a million different, zillion different paths that you could have taken. And there's always going to be one path that's going to be the ideal path for this programming. Okay? Is this the one for you? Don't know. It's hard to say. But that's where this whole thing comes. Do I have a choice anyways? No, you really don't. But you have a choice in what your experience is.
So you just live life. Just live your life so that the world is better off for you having lived in it. And you were talking about meaning before. I stopped looking for meaning decades ago because I realized we, any of us, has the power to make meaning in life.
Meaning is created.
If you're going to look for meaning, are you looking under a rock, behind a tree? It's as though meaning is sitting there waiting for you to find it.
Meaning is all
I
up in
found
here.
meaning. There it is. Now my life is complete. That feels so powerless on your own destiny. Whereas I make meaning. I want to learn something today that I didn't know yesterday. I want to lessen the suffering of someone today compared with however that person was living yesterday. One would say, what actually happened to you today? Has that happened on days when it was, they know how to ask questions, okay? By the way, if you just reject what someone says outright, that's as intellectually lazy as it is to accept what they say outright. What's harder, but I think more fun, is lining up a series of questions to probe the statement, to explore what is going on in the thoughts and in the claims of the person with whom you're conversing. So if someone says, I have these crystals, you rub them together, it'll heal you. My kids would say, what are the crystals made of? And what tests have you made for this? And could the healing have been explained in another way? And in what way are the, and they start asking these questions, and then the person will probably just walk away.
I don't do well with people that just assume that everybody else is ignorant just because they use rocks or crystals or other unconventional means. So I'm biting my tongue back. I don't do well with those type of assumptions. Because the thing is that there is science out there about rocks and crystals having frequencies. And there is science out there that there are frequencies that heal. He may not be aware of them. He probably isn't. But also he probably doesn't care. So the thing is that there's so much that somebody can pack into their mind. You need to understand that you don't know everything. I may pretend like I know everything. I don't. I know that there's so much out there that I don't know. The key is just to keep the mind open. And obviously he's not doing that. Not with this comment.
Because they would not have the answers to all of them. And then, remember I said, if an argument lasts more than 5 minutes, then both sides are wrong. There's no place for that to go. To the truly curious person. Here's another interesting fact. Crystals represent
the truly curious person would ask the right person for the answer. You need a scientifically minded person who's into studies, not a New Age hippie who carries stones. New Age hippie ain't going to carry the stones. But that doesn't mean they don't work. It doesn't mean that there's not science out there that works.
Lowest energy state of the atomic or molecular configuration that it's comprised of. The lowest energy state. So people say, I have crystal energy. No, you don't. You have the lowest energy state of that silicon dioxide that you're calling quartz.
Define lowest energy. That's where you're going to find the problem with this statement.
There's no energy you're going to take out of it.
He's talking about kinetic energy versus talking about frequency state.
In its lowest energy state. These are people who have never had chemistry. And as an educator, I don't want to make fun of this, but when people think they know something and are audacious about it when in fact they don't, that makes it much harder for an educator to.
Dunning-Kruger. He thinks he knows, but he doesn't.
Breakthrough.
Horoscopes.
Yeah.
Well, I've got some stats for you here,
Sure.
Neil. Surveys find that roughly 80% of Gen Z believe in astrology to some degree. 72% of those Gen Z and millennials allowed astrology to influence major life decisions like romance, health, work, and education. And many Gen Zs now are checking their horoscopes weekly.
Yeah, we live in a free country, so I'm not going to try to stop them. What would be sad is if that number got to 100%, and then you wouldn't be generating scientists or engineers or people who the objective truths of the world matter.
Stop right there. Okay. One of the biggest problems with the scientific community, and I'm a very science-minded person, but I'm a very open-minded person. I feel like we have a lot of improvement to do. The biggest problem with the scientific academic community is that they think they know everything. They think that they have figured it all out. They only just figured out that Sagittarius A, the center of the Milky Way galaxy, the galaxy that we are in, they only just figured out that Sagittarius A kicks out radio signals and measure it in the 1950s. Less than 75 years have we even known that there were radio signals from Sagittarius A. The biggest being in our galaxy, the center black hole of the Milky Way. If it took us to less than 75 years ago just to figure out about radio signals from space, from the largest being in our whole system other than our sun, how can you expect the human race to even have developed the technology to be able to see the electromagnetic frequencies from Mercury, from Jupiter, from Saturn, Uranus, Mars? Look at all the stuff that's on YouTube where there's the whole frequencies from each of those planets where they can listen to it. Look it up. What makes you think that that doesn't travel to us? We don't have the capability to measure it at this point. That does not mean that it doesn't exist. That's where this comes in. This is where science and metaphysics needs to come in and come together. It's all a matter of understanding that we don't know everything. You cannot learn more if you think you know everything. Dunning-Kruger. The whole scientific community does it. Dunning-Kruger effect. Very smart people in the industry. Very, very smart people. But the ones that are closed-minded and refuse to even consider that there is something else out there is the problem. I know that we can find the frequencies once we have the tech. That's the problem. We need the tech. It might require quantum, I think it's, what do they call them? Quantum spectrometers? Quantum, I don't know. I was developing it with Grok the other day. I like talking to Grok and developing random ideas. Just things that I could never even begin to do myself because I don't have the resources to do so. But if I ever did have the resources, I would find those frequencies and find how they affect people and the geometry and all that stuff. I would find it because it's kind of like to connect it to current day things that where we're like, we know it's out there, but we can't find it. Look at Planet 9. We know it's out there. We know it's out there, but we can't find it. What is it? Why can't we see it? We don't have the tech to do so. So, why isn't astrology the same way?
And then the civilization just goes back to the cave, where everything that happened in the natural world was mysterious, created by forces beyond our knowledge.
Because it was. We still don't know what created it. We still don't know.
Understanding. And this is the title of one of Carl Sagan's books, The Demon-Haunted World. Science as a Candle in the Dark. That was the subtitle of that book. So if you want to think you're not in control of your fate because the sun, moon, and planets are, it's like I said, it's a free country.
You are in control of your fate. Because the thing is that the expression from the planets is an emotional frequency. Emotional frequencies are extremely complex and can play out in many different ways. So say, for example, let's just say, I'm going to give you an example that you can work with. Let's say you sell software, okay? You sell software to corporate entities. You have a meeting with a giant corporation, and you are so excited for this whole thing. So you have a chart drawn up for the event chart for this meeting. And the event chart says, yes, this is going to turn out great. This is going to turn out amazing. The company isn't interested in your stuff. However, you met the love of your life at that company. Look at how that played out. To begin to understand that we don't have a crystal ball, you need to understand that. There's no crystal ball. It can play out many, many ways. There's many, many ways that humans cannot see what astrology or the programming is playing out. We can't see all of it. It is a multi-dimensional system, at least 10 dimensions, at least. And the thing is that there's no human out there or AI that can handle understanding what it means and know exactly what's going on. There's none. That's why you just have to find these people who are good with it. They understand that it is a vague reflection of what's going on. It's a reflection of what's going on, not the cause. It is a reflection. That's what I freaking hate about astrology community. The moon is not doing this to you. It is a reflection of your own insanity. You know, there's lots of other Leo moons out there that aren't crazy. I have a Leo moon. Let's continue.
Is there anything that you've learned that the universe does to influence us
Yeah, the sun rises and I wake up because I want to be awake during the day. Yes.
That people aren't.
Yeah, the tide comes in and I move my beach chair back because the tide came in. Yeah, there are things that influence my behavior. Yes.
There is literal science out there that solar flares cause psychotic episodes and health incidences in your body. If the sun can do it, why can't the planets?
But it's not much more than that.
Wrong.
Earth is tipped on its axis, so we have seasons. I
Yes.
buy coats and wear them in the winter. That influences my behavior.
What's your star sign?
Well, I once had someone.
I did look up his chart before looking at this whole video because I was like, I gotta know what this guy is. So come to find out, he is a Libra. He's a Libra with a Cancer moon. Cancer moon at the Libra degree. He has a Libra Mercury. What's his Venus? I forgot what his Venus is. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. His Mars is Gemini. So he is an information gatherer, naturally. That's what Mars does. That's what Mars does.
Take a class of mine at the Hayden Planetarium that I taught on astrophysics. And at the end, she, like the second to last class, she came and said, oh, thank you. Thanks for the class. I'm enjoying the class. But I want you to know I'm an astrologer, and I'm taking the class so I can cast horoscopes better. So I said, it's really working for you? She said, yeah. She said, for example, what's your horoscope sign? And I said, shouldn't you be able to figure that out? If all this works and you cast horoscopes, you ought to tell me what my sign is. She said, okay. She said, are you Gemini? I said,
No, that's his Mars.
Cancer. I said,
Cancer moon.
no. It must be Leo.
Nope.
I said, no. 8 horoscopes later, she gets the correct answer.
This goes to show that you cannot identify somebody based on their sun sign. You can identify somebody based on their moon sign very easily, as you can see that she tried to guess his Mars and his moon first, because those are the behaviors that he shows. You cannot guess what somebody's sun sign is, because the sun sign is your deep down why. You will not look at me while I'm out talking to people, doing real estate, doing all my stuff that I do. You would never know I'm a fucking Scorpio. You'd never know that. But would you guess I'm a Virgo? Absolutely. Absolutely. Would you guess I'm a Leo? Yeah, absolutely. But you would not guess that I was a Scorpio.
And says, I knew it. So I'm simply saying that
False equivalency. He's not very good at debating this.
her 9th guess out of 12 was correct. And
And astrologers, quit doing this to people. Quit doing it. Quit trying to guess people's sun signs. Good God.
she declares, I knew it.
Why do people want to believe in things like this?
I think they want the world to still have mysteries, because mysteries are beautiful things. However,
Even though astrology actually opens up those mysteries and tells you what's going on.
the world still has mysteries. They're just different mysteries from whatever there used to be. And so follow the mysteries where they take you. And there's another branch of all of us who must have answers to every question, because they're not learning to love the questions. They only want to love the answer. So they say, what was around before the Big Bang? I said, I don't know. We got top people. Something had to be around. I said, I don't know. Must have been God. So there's their answer. Then they're happy. What happens after death? Well, it looks like you rot in the ground, but otherwise, and that's what physics, it's got to be something, your soul. I said, there's got to be God, heaven. Okay, that's their answer. We've got their answer.
Atheist.
And if
Gotcha.
that's your answer at every turn, you're not as good an investigator of the unknown, because you just invented the answer to the unknown. You're content. What is dark matter? I don't know. We got top people working. Is that the spirit of God? Okay.
Don't get me started on dark matter. They've been looking for dark matter for more than 25 years. They know it's out there. But funny enough, they've created this dark matter out of nothing to make an answer for what's going on out there. So they can't figure out what's causing these other things to do these specific things out there. So they invented dark matter to be the answer for it. So you're going to tell me that scientists don't do the same thing as people with religion? That's 100% hypocrisy. 100%. That's what that is. They need to look into plasma cosmology. That's what they need to look into. It explains a little bit more and deletes the dark matter issue. I mean, we spent so much money looking for dark matter and we cannot find it. We cannot find it. But if you look into plasma cosmology, which is like the electric universe, that's basically what I follow, is the electric universe idea. Everything's electrical, electromagnetic. And give it the funding to study, to figure it out. I think you'll find far more answers, or at least be able to tie it to other things to create another new way of looking at it. A different one. This is what good scientists do. They keep their mind open. And if something doesn't work, you don't keep railing on that brick wall trying to find the dark matter. No, you figure it out and do something else. That's what you do.
Then that person won't walk into a lab to continue to study what dark matter and dark energy is. I don't mind if you want to say it's God, but don't let that stop your curiosity. But if you say it's God and then you're done, then you're not very useful in the lab.
Those people seem to be happier and healthier, though, which is the surprising thing. Religious people.
Well, again, so it could be because they believe there's a God that tells them who to sleep with and where to eat and how to pray, or because they have a regular dose of community. I don't know that those are completely separable variables. There are people who they love and care about that they see every week, which is not happening with so many people today.
Do you think you would be happier if you believed in God?
I'm a pretty happy guy.
Do you think you'd be happy?
He might be. I don't know. I don't know what he is. But the thing is that there's a lot of times that if you have not experienced the joy of divinity, and anybody who is a spiritualist who has ever touched source by praying, meditating, kundalini, whatever, if you have not experienced that, how do you know what joy is? He's like, I don't know, I'm a happy guy. You know, the thing is that the kid that's raised in an abusive household thinks they're happy too, because they've never seen what it's like on the other side.
Happier.
I don't know, I've seen very happy people in celebrating their version of God. But then there are other people who are really happy in their version of God. And here's the problem. Deeply religious people typically find other religions. Deeply religious people will declare for themselves and others in that religion that all the other religions are false. False. And if not false, just make preposterous claims. It is so obvious to them how false all the other religions are. Now you go to this religion. It is obvious how preposterous the rest of the religions are. You go around religion to religion. And so what's really going on here is devout.
This is where, like, people who participate in omnism, where you know that every single one has a piece of the truth. Every single one. None of them are wrong, if that makes sense. None of them are wrong.
People in so many of these religions are atheists to every religion but their own.
But in general, yes. Human population, this is what they do. Is it right? No, it's not.
Every religion but their own. Okay? How can a mountain have moved to Muhammad? That can't be. Okay. Oh, but yes, the creator of the universe impregnated a woman in the Middle East 2,000 years ago. That's more believable than anything in the Quran for this person. Okay? And then the Jews, he's saying, Jesus is the Son of God? What are you crazy? Where'd you get that from? He's a good Jew, nice prophet, but Son of God, you're going too far. So everybody's saying what's not true. So they're atheists for every other, they just don't believe any other religion. Whereas an actual atheist just has one more religion to that category.
That's true.
It's your religion. The atheist agrees with you that all the other religions are preposterous in their claims.
Yeah, that's true.
But they also think your religion
It's stupid
is
too.
preposterous.
Yeah.
And people don't accept that. It doesn't land well. So I don't have any problems with people being religious. I don't have any issues with that. I don't try to impose other people try to do it. I've seen them do this. I have a quote where I'm misquoted just because they want me on their side. Okay, you ready? It's a simple quote. If every time I tell you science doesn't understand it, and you say, well, God must be that.
No.
God made the universe God made life because we don't know how to make life yet. If that is your definition and understanding of God, then as science progresses, it will solve these questions, pushing the God back.
That's true.
Outward.
Yeah, it's pushing them
to places that have yet to be discovered.
Yes. The more you combine science with metaphysics, the more you push out the metaphysics and more of its actual science. Observable, recreatable science. Yes, that is true.
And so the quote is, if to you God is where science has yet to tread, then God is an ever-receding pocket of scientific ignorance. That references what philosophers have called God of the gaps.
People who are curious about what's outside of the Big Bang have gone past that. Because those people that want to know what's outside of the Big Bang, I think that's what one of the things that Elon has said he wants to know. What happened before the Big Bang? Who's on the outside of the simulation? That kind of thing. And that's a concept that I think about also. So people who want to see what's outside the simulation, of course God's out there. Because if it's outside the simulation, science can't reach out there. It just can't. It's two completely different realities.
It goes way back, thousands of years. If we don't understand it, there's a God. The storm is Poseidon, okay? Lightning bolt struck, it's Zeus, right? That's God of the gaps. God of the gaps is a time-honored exercise in human civilization. And all I'm saying is that statement is objectively true because it's an if statement. If to you God is where science has yet to tread, then as science continues to tread, you're a shrinking pocket of scientific ignorance. That's your God. Okay? It's not an opinion.
Because the pocket
That's a
inside the
statement of an if
simulation
statement.
will continue
The
to shrink
consequences
until
of an if
finally you're
statement.
outside of the
I've had people
simulation.
take the second half and put it on a T-shirt. God is an ever-receding pocket of scientific ignorance. Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's not what I said. That's half of what I said. And that's only true if
Misquoting, I
to
hate
you,
that.
God is where science has yet to tread. But to pull that out and make that the truth? No. I would never make such a statement. Ever.
You're 66, right?
Hang on.
He's like, how old am I?
I will be 67 in a month.
Okay, so you're
A month from this
See,
recording.
he's a
so
Libra.
I'm 33.
Okay. Half my age.
Exactly half.
Because he said it was recorded
I
on
was
September
wondering,
11th.
You're a very wise man. What is the advice that you wish someone had said to you at 33 that you could give to me now?
I have no such advice, and I'll tell you why.
I do the same thing.
If you're alert and you're smart, alert meaning you notice things and you're smart and you learn,
There's nothing to say.
living life itself is the lesson. So a version of what you just asked is, given what you know today, what would you tell yourself if you met yourself when you were 15, 20, 25, 30, whatever? And I said, I wouldn't tell him anything. Because if I gave a bit of wisdom, I said, you're about.
All right, we've gone through it all. It was enlightening. Hope this wasn't too long. I'm sure it's long. I've recorded for an hour and 40 minutes now. And that's even cutting through most of the video because we didn't need all the science shit. I just wanted to go through the stuff that was important. So thanks for being here. If you have any questions, put it down in the comments. Or if you have other ones that you want me to react to, put it in the comments. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining me for today's episode. To connect with me further, check out atlantiswaits.com.